Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is HD and it is time for Game 3, the conclusion of Bomber and Sleep from the IPL4 Online Qualifier. Of course, this all predates the IPL4 Online event, which I guess would not be called online, it would be just the live event at the Cosmopolitan in Vegas on April 6th. Hopefully you guys will be there, because I will be. And all of that starts on Friday at 10 a.m. So hopefully you guys tune in at justin.tv/IGN Pro League, and I'll see you guys there. Anyways, it is Bomber and Sleep, and Bomber is the red Terran player at the top right-hand corner. The map is GSL Daybreak, and down in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the blue Zerg xSix Sleep. Now, Sleep was able to tie up this game, or this series of games, in the last match. An extraordinary job by Sleep to once again come out with the victory when I really felt like he was behind in bases, he was behind in economy. You know, everything looked like it was going to play out the same exact way that we saw on Calm Before the Storm. And somehow Sleep was able to kind of eke out a victory, and I think a lot of that, you know, credit to him for getting a good flank off, but some of that also comes from Bomber, I think, being just a little bit too aggressive on that map. Antigua Shipyard is not a map where Terran players can just roll out, go straight to the third, and say, you know what, I'm going to take you out right here and now. The flank possibility is just too great of a threat, and that's where Bomber really, I think, made a flaw in his play. And it's time for Game 3. The map is Daybreak, and I think on this map that the Terran player, if he wants to push out and make an attack happen, he's much more in a position to do so than Antigua Shipyard. This map, while it features multiple corridors, one of them is sealed off by rocks, and most of the corridors are considerably narrow when you compare it to Antigua Shipyard. So this is certainly a map where if Bomber wants to take that more aggressive approach, it can certainly work. And we'll see what happens here as the drone makes its way inside the Terran main, and it is going to go ahead and get a full scout off. This time we do not have the barracks at the ramp, so we're not going to have the wall off situation occurring, and that's a little interesting. Usually Terran players will put the barracks at the ramp, so there's an opening there for the Zerg if Sleep decides to make an attack. Command center once again on the low ground. I definitely feel like on this map you can deflect attacks better than you can on Antigua Shipyard. I think the size from walling off from here to here, and just the way the natural is designed compared to Antigua Shipyard, I think it's easier to expand to the low ground and play it safe. On top of that, it's a pretty long distance map, so attacks are less likely. And of course, once again, you are playing Sleep, one of the most passive Zerg players in the world. Now the hatchery has come up at the natural, and Sleep is making its way back over with the drone. Not going to risk losing any drones in this game, as he's lost a lot of drones in both games combined. I think if you combine both totals, he's probably approached at least 50. And he's definitely gonna keep that drone count as high as possible to achieve, you know, the highest rate or chance of success, and closing out this series of games against Bomber. A couple of Zerglings making their way over to the left zone Aga Tower just to control that and give a lot of sight and vision for the Zerg for impending attacks. It's always a smart play. Factory coming up behind the barracks. So most likely we're going to have that reactored factory build once again with the Hellions. I do somewhat question why he didn't, you know, make the barracks here, wall it off with a supply depot or two, and just to give him that extra layer of depth in case of some type of an attack. Maybe he just feels very, very confident playing against Sleep, though, knowing his mentality. And like I said in the last matchup, if you can play against a player, you're going to be in a much better position. That's half the game of StarCraft 2. So he is going to go ahead and bring that barracks back, making a tech lab. Note this time around we do not have a double barracks, so we're not going to have that Marauder opening, I don't think. And that initial tech lab on the barracks is most likely going to be for that stim pack upgrade, or it could be for combat shields, depending on what Bomber really wants to go with. Metabolic Boost is about to finish up for Sleep. He has a Spine Crawler coming up on the front of his natural as well, beginning to remine the gas, but only has one drone on the gas this time, not keeping 3 on there. So his lair is going to be coming, but it's going to come around the same speed as the last game. And the reason why I say that is because last game he took all the drones off the gas, then he put 3 on it. So this is kind of like an alternative way to get up to lair without sacrificing the economy loss by putting 3 drones on gas. And an interesting swap here, as Bomber has put the factory back over to the tech lab, and he put the barracks back on the reactor core. So we're not going to have a reactor Hellion opening. Instead, we're going to have what seems to be just a quick tech into Marines and tanks, and then a macro CC. So he's not even going to bother making Hellions this game, which I think is very interesting. Usually Terran players get those Hellions on the field. He's only made 2 this time around, so he did make some. Usually Terran players will make a lot more than 2 though, so this is a bit risky because you sacrifice so much map control and you really give in to the Zerg and you let the Zerg get expansions at will, and I think that can be a mistake here from Bomber. We'll just have to see how things play out. We do have a couple of roaches on the way as well, as a roach horn was constructed from Sleep. Sleep has not made a lair yet either, and he's making quite a few roaches. Ooh, could he be going for some type of timing play here? He's making more gases on the natural, but he still has not made a lair yet. So he's invested all of his gas that he has saved up into a +1 armor upgrade and into roaches. I absolutely think here that we could be in store for some type of weird play from Sleep, but he is also making a third at the northern location. So, you know, really just intriguing builds from both these players. Certainly not the cookie cutter style that you're used to seeing. Now we do have engineering base coming up from Bomber, and so we are pretty much going to see the same exact playstyle from him, just a different approach, same ends though, and we're just basically going to have Marines and tanks coming out from the Terran player with very quick bio upgrades. Meanwhile, finally have the layer on the way, and it's so late. I feel like it's 9 minutes in. He has 350 gas saved up. I don't know why he didn't start the layer sooner, and I think that's going to be a mistake. He's not going to have +2/+2 anytime soon. He's not going to have mutas or banelings anytime soon, and or at least not baneling speed. And it looks like that Hellion was picked off. It did get inside to see the roach horn, and it did see quite a considerable amount of Zerglings, and more Zerglings being made right here. So yeah, I hinted it at a few minutes ago, and I said, you know, Sleep could possibly be going for something a little crazy here, and he's still making Zerglings. If you look at his drone count, it has halted at 52. He's really not, oh, there you go, making more drones. So I don't know, man. He's just making half Zerglings and half drones, and now he's adding on the infestation pit. So really seems like Sleep is concerned about the possibility of some type of an attack here, and that's why he's made so many Zerglings. But yeah, he's not going to be too happy about that when he realizes, you know what, the Terran's not going to attack for a while, not until Stim Pack and Combat Shields finish. And so he could have made an extra round of drones. He could have been at, I don't know, 70, 80 drones right now, but instead he made all these Zerglings, and I think that was a bit of a waste. We'll have to see how this game plays out, though. It could still go any way. Both of these players are extremely good, and we'll just have to see what happens. Meanwhile, we have Pneumatized Carapace, +2/+2, or just +2/+1, actually, coming down. +1/1 about to finish for the Terran side. And once again, another very passive game from both these players. You know, Bomber is more likely to make an attack happen when he feels like he needs to attack, when we've already seen him do that Marauder Hellion timing play on the last map, Antigua Shipyard. But of course, I expect this from Sleep all the time. He's so passive. He expands, and he expands, and he expands, and if he's behind, he just drones up, and he continues to play behind. It's really his play style, and so far it's gotten him 1 W against Bomber. We'll see if it can clean up in this final matchup and get that last W that he so desperately needs. Tank count beginning to build up as well for Bomber, and we do have the plus shield upgrade coming considerably late as well. You know, Bomber, I've noticed in this playstyle that he employs, really only gets 1 tech lab, so he doesn't want to waste any time for making Marines, so he just makes 1 tech lab, but that does delay getting Stim Pack and Combat Shields. Most Terrans like to get it both at the same time, but it looks like Bomber is not going to be on that page. Meanwhile, finally, we have a 4th base coming up from Sleep, so he is going to go ahead and get +1 over the Terran. Also have Hive about to finish as well, so Sleep surprising me once again and getting up to Hive pretty quickly. But, you know, I think the amount of Zerglings he made in the mid-game, the early mid-game, really hindered him, because if you look at the supply once again, he is behind Bomber. He's at 147, under 156, and if he hadn't made all those Zerglings, he would have been at 80 drones, you know, about 2 or 3 minutes ago, and that would have jump-started his economy. That would allow him to at least be on point with the Terran right now, but unfortunately he is not, and I really do think, once again, I just gotta give my card over to Bomber. I gotta say, Bomber, you're looking once again good to go. And as soon as you're maxed out, or as soon as you feel comfortable, go ahead and do it. He's about to finish, well, he's, you know, about halfway done with 2-2, so maybe he'll wait for that to finish up. before making a play. There are some Zerglings coming in for the counterattack though, and finally we might have first blood being drawn here in this conclusion between Bomber and Sleep, but the Zerglings unable to get in there. What a beautiful positioning on the supply depots in the bunker. That bunker is so protected. There's no way Zerglings will ever get back there. And so Sleep is going to have a very hard time counterattacking against this base, and he realizes that the foundation, the architect design of Bomber and that third is just too well protected, and unless he brings Banelings or Roaches or something that can range against the bunker, it's just not going to play out very well for him at all. Of course, we do have a Greater Spire coming because Sleep did rush that Hive so quickly. So I think right now Sleep is just trying to buy time to get up to Hive Tech. He is counterattacking into the Terran Natural, and he's going to pick off a couple of tanks here, so not a bad job at all from Sleep. Of course, delaying the reinforcements and picking off crucial buildings here or there, just keeping Bomber, multitasking, keeping him back at base. But Bomber is not flinching. He's just going to go in for the attack against the Zerg third. And those Brood Lords are on the way, but they won't be out for about another 10 or 20 seconds. And as a result, it looks like that hatchery is going to go down. Meanwhile, the counterattack is going to be pushed away by the reinforcing Marines. And that hatchery has gone down. And now will the Brood Lords come out to play? Where are they? In fact, they're all the way back at the natural, so they do have a long time to go because they are quite slow. And as a result, it looks like Sleep is going to lose another hatchery at the middle of the map. So another big blow from Bomber to Sleep, and Bomber's cutthroat, relentless playstyle, non-flinching, just going in and saying, you know what? I think I can attack. I think I have a timing window before Broodlord hits. It works perfectly for Bomber against Sleep. Aggression against passivity, and it looks like this time around it looks like the aggression from the Terran side is going to win out. But I'm not too sure what Bomber's trying to pull off here because those Broodlords are up in the skies. And I don't know why Bomber is cornering himself up at the top left-hand corner of the map. Look at him. He's sent all of his forces up here, and he doesn't have any Vikings on the field. I really think he should have just pulled back, and now his forces are trapped at the top left. So now I'm scratching my head because Bomber might have just made a huge mistake. Those Infestors are going to bungle a bunch of the Marines, and now the Broodlords can go to town, and Bomber, I think, just realizes, oh crap, all my tanks are gone. They're done for. So now he's going to send all of his Marines down south to maybe pick off some more units, but wow, now I've got to ask the question, was it worth sacrificing his entire army to kill off 2 hatcheries? We'll have to see, is he going to lose his entire army or not? He's got some medevacs here so he can evacuate, but those Infestors are there, and the Infestors are going to get a fungal growth. So there it is, the entire army of Bomber goes down. Man, he had an opportunity to just totally fall back, re-macro, and build more bases, but he decided to stick at the top left-hand corner, and I think that just did him in because he didn't have any units designed to kill off Broodlords. And all of a sudden now, I think Sleep just got right back into this game. It's a seesaw chain of events, and the new hatcheries are starting to redeploy themselves where the old hatcheries once were. We also have a potential hatchery coming up at the 6 as Bomber moves down there as well. Bomber looking to pick that off there. The hatchery is already down. Tons of spine crawlers on the way, but there's already Zerglings there, and it doesn't look like Bomber is going to force the situation. He's got to wait for more Vikings to come on the field before he can even hope to attack that amount of Broodlords, and also starting to work down those rocks, which is going to allow him to mobilize his Terran units down the ramp much easier. But at this moment in time, it's all about Bomber getting enough Vikings on the field. I would also love to see him maybe grab a 4th as well, because if he maintains this macro game against Sleep, eventually the Zerg economy is going to overrun you if you don't get a 4th base. So maybe he can grab this one. There is limited minerals there. Maybe he can go down to the bottom right. There's a Zergling there as well. So either way, hopefully Bomber grabs an expansion pretty soon. We do have concussive shells coming out as Bomber is anticipating an eventual switch to Ultralisks, but I don't see an Ultralisk coming on that production tab. In fact, it looks like Sleep is just going to stick with Broodlords, getting +1 air weapons, and maybe getting some Banelings in the mix as well. So a really powerful late game composition. And on this map, I really don't like Ultralisks anyways, so this is a good idea from Sleep. And now he's got to make a hold here at the 6 o'clock. There are quite a few Vikings in the air, though. Will Bomber be able to kill off all these Broodlords or not? The Broodlings beginning to come down as well. The Infestors not really getting the best fungal growths. Oh, and there we go. Good fungal growth down to the south, catching a pack of Vikings, but is it going to be enough? Those Vikings are doing so much damage. The Broodlord numbers have really been thinned out. I think that battle really went well for Bomber. He just killed off almost all the Broodlords. Now the Queens have to quickly transfuse to keep the remainders alive, but Bomber absolutely trading cost effectively there. Killed off a horde of Broodlords. still has his tanks in position. Thankfully, though, Sleep did keep some of his Brute Lords alive, and that is going to make these tanks go away, because you really cannot push against Brute Lords until you've really whittled them down or killed off most of them, and there's still 3 up in the air. So Bomber now thinking, you know what, that went pretty well for me, I'm going to fall back, and I'm going to continue to macro up. So that's a good position for him. Love to see him potentially get a 4th as well, because I still feel like he is going to, if he's going to play the macro game, he's going to fall behind to Sleep. Sleep does have less drones though, 56 under 64. But Sleep is making quite a few Corruptors. He's got a lot on the field right now, and of course when you have that many Corruptors, most likely they're going to become Brood Lords, and that Brood Lord number is going to get replenished for Sleep. And that could be a problem for Bomber, who's still on 3 bases, does not have that much production to keep up in terms of Vikings. Only has right now on the field about 13 Vikings. I guess he's still got plenty on the field, but he really needs to get another base, and we do have him evacuating the main. Might as well recycle and not spend another 400 minerals in a new command center. Also sending these Vikings over to take a couple pot shots on the cocoons before the Brute Lords metamorphosize into their most powerful unit transformation. And here comes the Marines coming over to the top left, and once again pick off the hatchery. Another good blow by Bomber, and hopefully this time Bomber doesn't stick around and put himself in a bad situation. That cost him in the last battle. He's got to back up into the tanks and not corner himself in. He's also been able to secure this area, dropping down mules to replenish his economy. Some Marines getting themselves caught with some fungal growths, but not a bad loss from Bomber, who really isn't committing that many forces over here, maybe just trying to divert the Zerg's attention and then making attack into the middle hatchery. That would be a very smart play right now for Bomber to make. 5 Vikings being made at a time right now, and I really think Bomber's Viking production now is definitely on point to deal with the Brood Lords. How many Infestors does Sleep have? He has 8 Infestors, so he has plenty of Infestors on the field, and Infestors are so important for dealing against Vikings. They can bungle the Marines as well, and here we go. It looks like the battle is about to unfold before our eyes. The Corruptors taking out the Vikings trading blows as well. Infestors are not dropping fungal growth, surprisingly, maybe 1 or 2, but not really fungling as much as I thought they would have, and the Marines have been allowed to get underneath the Brood Lords. I think a mistake by Sleep. He still had Infestor energy remaining, and it looks like he's going to lose this hatchery, so Bomber really making an aggressive play, and it paid off for him that time. He was able to take out 2 hatcheries, and it looks like he's going to take out the 6 o'clock as well. And I think Bomber is going to advance on in this qualifier tournament for IPL4. Sleep is just losing everything now. Has to pull drones off the line, and that's always a good sign that things are not doing so well for the player who has to fight with workers. So Bomber in a lot of not Bomber, Sleep in a lot of trouble. Bomber is looking fantastic, and he is now finally mining off a fresh base. I can't say how many times how the fortification of this bunker just paid huge dividends for Bomber, because he never had any threat at all at this base. The only threat was over here, and really he didn't lose anything over there either. So Bomber just looking really, really good. Sleep in a lot of trouble. 124 supply under 199, and he is going to invest into that hatchery once again. And with the comsat already being there, I'm sure Bomber realizes that the clock is ticking, and Doomsday scenario is looking very likely here for Sleep. So a couple of crawlers coming up here, just trying to fortify that position. Some Marines and tanks making their way over to the middle of the map. They're going to break down those rocks, which is going to lead another attack path right into that hatchery. Another comsat gets dropped down. And I think with that comsat, he sees, there's only 1 Brood Lord being morphed. He's got position on all sides, and he is just going to run in with everything. Damn it, even if he gets bungled on his Marines, it doesn't really matter. He's just got attacks coming from all directions, and that is pretty much going to be all she wrote. So Sleep calls GG. And I hope you guys enjoyed this broadcast. Once again, guys, IPL4 is coming around the corner, and it will be this Friday. I'm flying out on Thursday, so I've got a couple of days here to cast as many of the qualifier games as I can, and I'll bring out a couple more sets for you guys before I leave for Vegas. And with that said, hopefully you guys tune in. The link will be justin.tv/IGN Pro League, and it will start on Friday at 10 a.m. And stay tuned to my YouTube channel. I'll have more content coming up very soon. HD, signing up.